First, to the New South Wales Labor government that last night protected those celebrating terrorism while telling Jews to stay at home. It's not just the Gaza Strip that's a no-go zone. New South Wales Police declared Sydney's CBD and the Opera House unsafe for Australian Jews. It's unthinkable that there could be such cruelty towards innocent families, mothers, babies and children as we've witnessed in Israel. Yet it seems some of our fellow Australians are celebrating the horrors that have had the rest of us in deep distress. First, in Lakemba, in Sydney's southwest on Sunday night, we saw Australians celebrating after the terror attacks in Israel.
I'm smiling. I'm smiling and I'm happy. I'm elated. It's a day of courage. It's a day of happiness. It's a day of pride. It's a day of victory. This is the day we've been waiting for.
And that is the preacher. Those are the comments that Tony Burke wouldn't directly condemn, and I'll come back to that a bit later in the show. Then there's video of this group driving around the streets in Greenacre, also in Sydney, letting off firecrackers and yelling Allahu Akbar.
Live from Greenacre. Live from Greenacre.
And then perhaps the most egregious, a rally in the heart of Sydney's CBD, where protesters burned the Israeli flag and yelled death to the Jews and gassed the Jews. And a warning that this is very distressing. How has this day come when New South Wales Police told Jews to stay in their homes because it's simply not safe to walk on Sydney's streets? But that's what the New South Wales government did last night. Instead of reining in the protesters, instead of breaking up the crowds, putting an end to the threats of violence, the aggression, the fire, the police allowed the protest to take place. The hatred from the Middle East suddenly very real on the steps of our iconic Opera House. We have had the shambles of the Minns government allowing a vile protest to be conducted on the steps of our national icon, which was last night meant to be lit up in blue and white in solidarity with Israel. But the New South Wales government allowed Australians, as many of these protesters are, to use our national symbol to project images of hate globally. The pictures that beamed around the world provided moral support to terrorists who are murdering young families. Instead of taking action to rein in the protest, the New South Wales government acted in a cowardly way. They handed over the Opera House as a platform to, as you've seen, those chanting death to the Jews, gas the Jews. The Opera House now tainted by the vilest of sentiments imaginable against humans. This is what appeasement looks like. It's shameful and it's a sign of a weak government that failed to act against those openly threatening Jews on the steps of our national icon. And instead of arresting any of the aggressive anti-Semitic protesters, the only known arrest last night was of a single Jewish man holding the Israeli flag. Mark Spiro, stupidly or bravely, whichever way you look at it, he went to the rally holding this Israeli flag. He was arrested. Police today defended their actions and said they were protecting him.
I've done nothing wrong, mate. I've just done nothing wrong.
This is really unfair, guys.
Mate, I've done nothing
really unfair.
Arrested.
What for? What's he being arrested for?
I've done nothing wrong.
Tell us what he's being arrested for.
Arresting my friend.
What have I done? Just tell me what I've done. Stop.
Why is he being arrested? Sydney, Australia, and this is what happens.
In relation to a breach of the peace.
Why? He's got a flag. He hasn't done anything.
A person was removed from the town hall rally who was carrying a flag for his safety. He was arrested to prevent a breach of the peace for his safety. He was removed and released.
And Caroline Marcus reports that Mark Spiro is now considering his legal options. But a lot has been said in the Voice debate on the image that a no vote will project to the world. But here we see images of the New South Wales government giving a public platform for encouragement of murderous terror beamed around the world. This is Australia 2023. Arrest Jews for their safety and provide safe passage for murderous slogans and celebration of terror. The New South Wales Attorney-General, Michael Daly, repeated the comments today that people should stay home. And worse, he drew an equivalence between the supporters of terrorism and Jewish Australians. Appalling comments on Ben Fordham's show this morning.
Everybody needs to just calm down and, as you say, do stay at home.
Well, what's the point in lighting up the sales of the Opera House and then telling Jewish people to stay home for their own safety?
I think all people should stay home for their own safety if the streets are unsafe. But
is New South Wales and Sydney unsafe?
Well, I'm confident that the police have got the streets under control, as they always do.
Now, that whole conversation with Michael Daly, well, they were pretty shocking comments from the New South Wales Attorney-General. He spoke about dividing into teams, but there is no equivalence here. There has been a terror attack on innocent families. The opposition in New South Wales has accused the government of failing in their duty to ensure the safety and protection of Jewish Australians. And as I said, Opposition Leader Mark Speakman will be on my show tonight. He says the Police Minister is missing in action. Well, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns responded by saying this today.
They're the opposite of what we want in our modern multicultural community. To have some people celebrate atrocious, indiscriminate killing and kidnapping in Israel is appalling. And I think that at the end of the day, this is the opposite of the dynamic multicultural community that we want in New South Wales and Australia.
The Australian's political editor Simon Benson writes that the Police Minister Yasmin Catley should resign. He says it's almost beyond belief that Jewish residents of Sydney have been told to stay in their homes because the police can't guarantee their safety. He writes this is nothing short of a disgrace and the Police Minister Yasmin Catley should resign for allowing this to happen. He says she has to bear ultimate responsibility for the decision, which flies in the face of the decision by her Premier Chris Minns to light up the Opera House in the first place as a mark of respect to the Jewish community. But even after all of this, Yasmin Catley is refusing to apologise, and there were calls for her to do so in Parliament today.
The Minister owes our community, our Jewish community, an apology.
The Minister would apologise for what happened last night, and she has not come close.
Minister, if you could be directly relevant.
The New South Wales Police Force recognises and supports the rights of individuals and groups to exercise their rights of free speech and peaceful assembly. However, the first priority for the New South Wales Police is always the safety of the wider community. Mr Speaker, I encourage any person or group who has been the target of hate crime or incident to report this to the New South Wales Police.
I mean, that's unacceptable. She's had a shocker. As Ben Fordham said today, it's conflicting messages. The New South Wales government is lighting up the Opera House sales in blue and white in solidarity with Israel, but then telling Jews the steps of the Opera House are not safe for them, that police can't protect them. It is disgraceful. Well, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, condemned the protest today, and Peter Dutton said it shouldn't even have gone ahead in the first place.
I've now seen the images just recently, and they're horrific, quite clearly. Slogans which are anti-Semitic and just appalling with no place.
People can protest peacefully, that is a right. People can express their view, even if we disagree with it in our country. But some of the conduct last night was appalling, and frankly, there should have been a lot more done to deter that gathering from taking place in the first instance.
It's not just in Sydney that we're seeing scenes like this. All around the world, Jews are in hiding while pro-Palestinian protesters take to the streets. This outside the White House. And this outside of Toronto. And protesters in New York made it clear that the end goal isn't even the Jews, it's everyone.
We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadan Rasulullah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the God of Jesus, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, and the God of the last and final prophet Muhammad.
But what we saw in Sydney last night isn't just anti-Semitism, it is hate speech, and it's unlawful. Yet no apology from the police minister, no backing down. There needs to be accountability. Free speech, of course, we applaud, even if we disagree with it. But hate speech is unacceptable, and it's far from the values that we hold dear in Western civilization.